Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to stand and we want you to make some noise.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go racing here at Knoxville.
Only the best go three abreast.
It is show time at Williams Grove Speedway.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here at Eldora Speedway, it's showtime!
You got them for a breath. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the world of outlaws.
It's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy because, ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime!
Set to do battle for 30 laps. The green flag is waving.
Hello again. It's Wing Nation here, talking sprint car racing, our favorite time of the year. We are so glad you joined us as we are into it now. Race cars on track. Oh, thank God it is that time of the year. Steve Post here in our studios here in Concord, North Carolina, and just such a great time of the year. So much excitement, so much anticipation, great stuff. And in just a moment, we're going to talk with Fred Rahmer, the iconic Hall of Famer from Pennsylvania. Fred always has a lot on his mind, so it'll be interesting to see what we talk about today. So looking forward to chatting with Fred Rahmer. Had a great week so far here. Earlier in this week, Justin Fiedler sat in, and we had the chance to talk with Mason Daniel and with Wayne Johnson. And, of course, you can find all of our interviews, even the historic ones, and our features from out the off-season that we had, Wing Nation Presents by Dryden, DRF. You can find all of those at wingnation.com. That's www.wingnation.com. There's a lot of stuff on there, folks. So as you're gearing up for the races this weekend, jump on wingnation.com and check us out. It is the Thursday edition of the show here. One of the things we always like to talk about is our National Sprint Car Hall of Fame birthday calendar. Danny Lasowski had a birthday earlier this week. Ted Johnson and Mike Arthur, birthday yesterday. Saturday, Jimmy Oskey, Gene Lynch. And on Sunday, Alex Morales and Jan Opperman, the legend. Jan Opperman would have had a birthday on Sunday. Today, Larry Sullivan and Ralph Speedy Helm. Helm is a 2002 inductee. He was born in 1905 in Sydney, Illinois. Now, he started as a racer at 17 years old, but an early crash lost the vision in his right eye. So then he started off in 1926. He formed the Tri-State Racing Association. They promoted big car racing in Illinois, in Indiana, and Kentucky. They ran for about 10 years. Of course, as always happened back in that era, the world of racing stopped for World War II. After World War II, he got back into it, owning big cars and sprint cars up until 1974. Listen to this list of drivers that drove for Helm. Tom Bigelow, Joey Chitwood, Dick Gaines, Jim Hurtubise, Judd Larson, Johnny Rutherford, and so many more. That's a who's list. That's a Hall of Fame list right there that drove for Ralph Speedy Helm, who passed away in 1993. He's a 2002 inductee into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. One of the other things the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, and they just announced this Tuesday, was the Priority Aviation $2,000 Knoxville National Sponsorship. It returns this year with a twist, benefiting the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, $20,000 the first prize. Now, we had that last year, okay? $20,000 first prize, $10,000 second prize, and a $5,000 third prize. Now, this is based on memberships and donations to the museum, okay? So when you go on sprintcarstuff.com and you make a donation or you sign a membership, in the notes, just put your driver or team, and we'll start racking them up. Last year, Lance Deweese won the $20,000 award, and over $60,000 was raised for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. This is Priority Aviation, Jennifer and Richard Marshall. They do so much good for the sport of sprint car racing and so much good for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. Deadline is July 31st. And now let's go to the hotline, where joining us is the Hall of Famer, team owner, great race car driver, and all-around good guy, Fred Rahmer from up in Pennsylvania. Hello, Fred. Welcome into Wing Nation.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on, Steve.
Always good to chat with you, Fred. How are you doing? How are things looking as you guys gear up for another big year with the boys racing?
I sure hope so. We work hard over the winter like everybody does, so we'll see what happens.
You know, one of the things, Fred, that I enjoy. I'm just going to tell a little bit that when I go to Pennsylvania, Fred and I end up having a couple cold frosty ones, and I always love the conversation. And one of the things I really like is that, and those of you that follow this program know that I'm pretty positive about everything. Fred will say to me, how are things going? I'm like, oh man, that's great. This is great. This is great. This is great. And I'll say, Fred, how are things going around here? And Fred's like, I'm worried about it. I'm fragile. It's fragile, and I'm worried about it. And I love that because I think that I think sometimes my rose-colored glasses kind of don't put perspective on things. So, Fred, as we look at, first off, just big picture sprint car racing and what you see in Pennsylvania, kind of describe where you think it's at and what's happening with it right now.
Well, I don't know. I mean, our car counts are down a little bit. I mean, we still have good racing. We're still competitive with the Outlaws. We didn't have great a year as we could have this year, but I just see it as very fragile, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of the things they're proposing now, I just think are really going to bring it to its knees.
And I think that's one of the things that I really wanted to get you on and talk about. A couple weeks ago in Area Auto Racing News, the Tuesday, January 14th edition, Len Salmon's column, and Lenny Salmon's just one of the great guys in the sport, one of the great guys covering the sport. You were part of a discussion, and one of the concerns that you have is some of the manufacturers coming into the sport. Fred, kind of lay out what some of your concerns are as far as that goes.
You know, right off, I have no problem with Ford or Toyota. I just think that 99.9% of the sprint car motors in this country are Chevys. And if we introduce another motor and Toyota does what they usually do, a great job, and create a product that is what I think 6 of the last how many Chili Bowls have been won. They've won the last 6. I just don't know that sprint car racing. I mean, imagine if they come out with a motor, they start with what Ford and Chevy has developed over this last 30 years,
mm-hmm.
and they build just a little better product. And as time trials are so sensitive now that if you don't time good, the motors that we have will be instantly devalued and uncompetitive, and you'll need to get a Toyota, and we'll all be in trouble.
Yeah, and and that's where this fragile nature of the sport then jumps in as well, because if it's $5,000, if it's $10,000 more, that just pushes that fragile nature over the edge.
Well, even if it was unrealistically a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
The motor you presently have is now devalued.
Okay.
And a big portion of the sprint car world can't say, well, I'll sell these 2 and buy 1.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's just, I just don't see it as a good thing. And, you know, the World Racing Group claims, and they do a good job 90% of the time, that there's a box that they're going to have to work within. Toyota has unlimited resources, I would assume, the way they do NASCAR and everything else they do.
Yeah.
That they're going to be able to test far above any individual or motor builder. They say this box that they have that
right.
You have to work with it. But who, other than a car manufacturer, can even explore that box at the level they'll be able to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what it is, and part of the story is that Tom Deary was quoted in the story, the COO of the World Racing Group. It's called the Engine Builder's Guide, and Tom believes that guide will kind of keep everything in line, and that's their point with it.
Yeah, I believe he believes that.
Yeah.
I just don't believe it the way it's going to be. I mean, I hope you invite them on and invite somebody from TRD on.
Yeah.
And say, what are you going to bring to sprint car racing? How is it going to improve sprint car racing? I see nothing but negatives coming from this. The cost, I mean, if a midget motor right now is $68,000 to $70,000,
right?
What is a Ford 10 sprint car cost going to be? I asked the people at PRI at the Ford booth, when will they be available, and how much are they going to cost? Well, we don't know, and we can't tell you when we can deliver it. And Donnie Schatz and them guys are all my friends, and good for them.
Yeah.
But we still have to race against it while they're developing it. You know what I mean? I just don't get it.
Yeah. So you've got Toyota. You're concerned Toyota coming in and to their credit, when they come in to play hardball, and they do it in NASCAR, and they do it in midget racing, and now the concern is doing it there. And then with the Ford engine, you guys are actually going to compete against an engine that you can't get this year with the Ford engine.
Yeah, and you know, and I honestly, whether this is right or wrong, I can deal with Ford because they come in with one level of energy.
Yeah.
Toyota is scorched earth. When they come in, this whole thing is a marketing strategy for them to sell vehicles. That's their job. I totally get it. But we need to be protected from that. I guess the World Racing Group, I guess they're our leaders, it seems, but I just don't see that. They need to tell me how Toyota coming in is going to benefit sprint car racing.
Exactly. And benefit it. There will be some drivers that will likely benefit from it, but the overall sport, you're worried about the overall health of the overall sport.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Chris Bell, Kyle Larson, they're the greatest drivers you ever could see, and probably could win in a Ford Falcon. That being said, they're going to benefit. But as a sport, it's going to drop us to our knees, I think.
So So I mean, we'll have a discussion and we'll invite people in to talk about it. But is the horse out of the barn, or we're
it's totally out of the barn.
Yeah,
and I see Toyota in the future will be sponsoring the World Racing Group.
Oh, really?
That's what I see. You know what I mean? And if we ever get to where they do in midget and let electronic fuel injection, and all electronic fuel management, it will run so many people out of racing, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion. And again, just to throw a disclaimer, I have nothing against Ford or Toyota.
Sure.
That is job. I also feel Chevy's going to have to step up and come up with another motor, which again antiquates every part we have.
And then the problem is I had not thought about this. The biggest, obviously the biggest problem is you guys are all sitting there with motors that are all obsolete. Even if Chevy comes out with something that's better than Toyota, your whole inventory is shot anyhow, though.
Right. And everything was fine until we opened the door for Toyota. And then Ford and Chevy and everybody else says, hey, we better pick up our game. You know what I mean? And, that's where we're at. I just see, nothing positive can come from this. It can only be negative. And my main concern is for sprint car racing. I love sprint car racing.
Yeah.
I want it to continue forever. I talked to several motor builders, not just Don Ott, and they told the World Racing Group that it wasn't a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have no problem. They say, well, if they work within that box, we have to let them do it. Well, years ago, and not that it matters, we had a billet block, and they said, hey, you're not allowed to run that no more. Don't bring it back next year.
Right.
And they made it illegal. Years ago, Brodex had something special, too, and they say, that's illegal, can't run it. But when a corporation, we used to race against millionaires and people that earned a really good living. Now we're racing against corporations the way it's going to be now.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I just seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari. Ford come in, got mad at Ferrari for 4 years, spent everything they had to win, and then went away. But the damage will already have been done.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's a fascinating picture that you paint, and with the way they've come in, the way the Toyotas come in, and the way this is all gone, it makes a lot of logic to what you're proposing here.
Yeah, and listen, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but at a World or Outlaw race, if you're a half a tenth off, you are in trouble. If they come out with a motor that just times just a little bit, and with all the resources they have and the great people they have there, it's very possible to happen pretty easy and pretty quick.
Yeah.
So then, right now, on a Friday night, we get whatever amount of cars, 20 cars at Williams Grove, 24 cars, and you say to the other guys that race on Saturday night, well, why weren't you at the Grove? It pays better than it does on a Saturday night race. And they say, well, we don't have the motor. Well, imagine this. Somebody gets a Toyota around here, and it's a superior motor potentially.
Right.
What's going to happen to our local racing? I mean, to me, and I hope this isn't true, it just seems like the World Racing Group doesn't really care about local racing whatsoever, in my opinion. And let me say this. I love racing with the World Outlaws. The proudest moment I have in racing is my son winning an outlaw race. That's how much I have respect for the competitors in that division.
Right.
But I need somebody to take care of sprint car racing so it's around for a long time, and I don't know if that's happening.
A lot of concern, that is for sure. And I will say this, Fred, you and I had this first conversation about this before PRI. I went up to PRI and had some discussions with engine builders as well, and you're the guy out here throwing the snowballs, but you're not alone. It is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, but I do know for a fact I've had multiple people with the same conversations. You're just one that's not scared to talk about things like that. So, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing it because it is your passion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a passion. We've worked so hard for so many years to build something up. To see it tore down. If TRD or the World Racing Group can come on and say, hey, this is why it's going to be better. I talked to somebody that I have a great amount of respect for that's in the media business that said, oh, you can't imagine how much exposure this is going to get for sprint car racing and this, that, and the other thing. The problem being, until the purses increase and everything equals out, we'll all be out of business at a local level, in my opinion.
Because that's where all this happens is where that fragile state that we're in now puts it over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, the World Racing Group has 12, 15 cars, whatever the number is. They control all of racing in all of the United States as far as sprint car goes, pretty much without, exception. And we're just going down the wrong road, in my opinion. And I don't want to be on talking about this. I don't want to be the guy throwing the snowballs.
Right.
I just am very concerned. Me and a whole lot of people love sprint car racing, and I just don't know how much more it can endure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, I'll state that you're not alone. That is for sure. Fred, moving on as we gear up for the 2020 season. How are things looking up in Central Pennsylvania? Just with the tracks up there, what's going on? What are you looking forward to up there this year?
Just getting out and getting focused and getting in a rhythm and getting racing. So, hopefully we have a good turnout. We were at a show the other week and there was a lot of people there, so it seems like there's a lot of interest. So we'll see what happens.
Fred, let's set aside the motor discussion. Okay, let's set that aside. As far as that goes, but before this, we're at a fragile state. Okay, and you've been a promoter. You've tried that. You've done that with some shows at Path Valley and everything. What's the fix to where we're at now to get this so that maybe we're not at such a fragile state?
I'm telling you, our big shows, our speed weeks and obviously the outlaw shows and even the all-star shows, we have great crowds.
Right.
Truthfully, we run the Casey Kane race up here, and they had to sanction the race to get a group of cars to come out at a race that paid $1,000 to start, I think, and $20,000 to win. I mean, and we have. I mean, on a Saturday night, there's probably 25 cars at Port and 25 at Lincoln, and we would run that race and get 28 cars.
Huh.
So I don't know. I don't know if people aren't as energetic as they used to be. If money's the problem, obviously it is for everybody, including myself. But I don't know. I think as far as the fans, better track preparations, create better racing. Not wet and heavy, dry slicks to the fence. So you got to be able to drive the car and work on it.
Mm-hmm. Are we over? Do you think? And we'll stick to Pennsylvania here. Do you think there's a little oversaturation, too many races maybe? And I know that's a weird thing to have.
Yeah, I do believe it. If you're a promoter and you say, I'm going to try and sneak a race in from May till September, October, good luck. I mean, in Pennsylvania, you can race as much as you want to, for sure, within reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's no open date. I mean, and it don't matter how much you pay. The guys are just, like you said, they race Saturday night, they go Saturday, and they'll sneak in a race once in a while, but there's so many. I don't want to see them take any away. I'd like them to add more. But, I don't know. It's getting crazy.
It's a weird spot. It really is. And I know that you and I have talked about it before, and it's a strange spot. It really, truly is. The boys, how are Brandon and Freddie looking for this year? Everything geared up good for the boys as they get ready to go after it again?
Yeah, actually, I think so. I mean, I think we got everything in line the best we can, and we're going to go out and try and dyno some motors out at Tim Engler's here in a week or two, and see if we can get better there and time trial. And, we have really good motors, but you can't leave no stone unturned.
Boy, I'll tell you what, and that is the thing with those World of Outlaw events, time trialing, holy cow, man, that is so critical. Wow.
Yeah. And again, and not to sound like a wuss, I have no problem with Toyota, Ford, even the World Racing Group. I am just concerned about sprint car racing, and whatever that makes me, I don't know, but we don't need to go no faster.
Right.
I don't want nothing to do with motor limits or claimer motors or, there's probably more cheating in 360 racing than there is in 410 racing.
Right.
I just don't see nothing good coming from, this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it's a very valid point. It makes a lot of sense. And I think there's probably a fair number of people that share your opinion on it as well. So we'll reach out, chat with some folks and see what we can learn on it, what the other perspectives might be on it. But we do appreciate your time and sharing your passion with it, Fred. Always a pleasure to chat, and can't wait till we can hook up for a cold frosty one along the way as well.
I'll look forward to it, and I hope you can get the guys to come on, from TRD and the World Racing Group and explain to all of us, or at least me, what they think is a positive, or if they don't think they can avoid it. I mean, obviously it's probably too late now, but whatever. Well,
we appreciate it, Fred. Wish you the best, and we'll be watching those boys tear it up on the tracks of Pennsylvania.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There we go. Fred Rahmer. Always a pleasure to chat with Fred. Fred has always wanted to state his opinion, and it is an issue that has been discussed a lot in the sprint car world. We will reach out to some folks at TRD, and we'll reach out to some folks at the World Racing Group and see what their reaction is, response is. But we always appreciate that. I just appreciate Fred's candor in talking about things. He is a passionate individual when it comes to sprint car racing, and he's not shy when it comes to those observations. So stay tuned on that one. But a great article. That's what kind of triggered me. Fred and I had a conversation before PRI, and I went up there and I got some similar reaction from some folks in the industry. And then the story came out on January 14th in the Area Auto Racing News. And so stay tuned. We'll see what happens as things keep evolving in the world of 410 sprint car racing. Looking forward, coming up, our friends at the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour. Man, what a year they have. Now, this is going to be fascinating to watch what happens with the Lucas Oil ASCS, and they're the leading 360 tour. It's wide open this year. Sam Haferteep has won the last 4 championships. We had Sam on our MAV TV show this past weekend. He's won the last 4. Sam is going to run the All-Stars, and so it's wide open. And they kick it off February 28th and 29th, the end of this month, at Canyon Speedway Park in Peoria, Arizona, just north of Phoenix. And then they have a California swing with Merced, Placerville, Petaluma. Then the traditional stops, Texas, Pennsylvania, Washington. They run the 360 Nationals. It's going to be a great year for the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour, and a lot of fun. ASCS, 9 regional tours, 6 of them are winged and 3 non-winged. They have a big season plan. You can follow along more with that at www.ascsracing.com. Volusia Speedway Park, their Volusia Raceway Park, that's the place to be. The Dirt Car Nationals ongoing this week. World of Outlaw, NOS Energy Sprint Cars, they kick off their season Friday night. Tomorrow night, if you're listening to this on Thursday, they kick it off at Volusia. Our friends at USCS with Henry County Motorsport Park in Clewiston, they'll have action Friday and Saturday as well. Wing Nation apparel is available at www.wingnation.com. That's wingnation.com. Also available at the All-Star Souvenir Trailer, wherever the All-Stars race across the country. You can follow along with us on social media, on our Twitter account, our Facebook page, and our Facebook group. Also, wingnation.com, where you can catch all the archives of everything we have going on. Coming up this Saturday on MAV TV, we have got David Gravel joining us on Wing Nation, presented by Sage Fruit, and of course, a lot going on in David Gravel's world. We appreciate Fred Rahmer joining us here on the program. More important than all of that, though, thank you for joining us here today.
This has been the Wing Nation Podcast. Find Wing Nation on wingnation.com, Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider. The Wing Nation Podcast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.